Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition, episode number 60 of the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast. Glad to have you in today. Hope everybody had, of course, a great weekend, great week last week, and here's to a great week this week. Happy Monday. And if you're listening on Apple, Google, Spotify, or watching the show, we do appreciate you tuning in, and we hope that we can make your Monday a little bit better. We have a lot to talk about today. Our topic at hand, preparing to get drafted. We can really dissect that here, and we have a lot of points that we're going to try to get to. Plus, I mean, we've got the Diamondbacks. I don't know if people know this, but they let a guy, Daniel Vogelbach, score because he was hurt over the week. And we've got another general manager calling a manager a con artist. And we've got guys taking their pants off. I mean, it's crazy. The world is crazy. And by the way, I think, you know what? I think that's a great segue. Guys taking their pants off. So who better to introduce? Who better to introduce at this time?
Yeah,
Who knows all about taking
his Zoom calls.
Knows all about taking his pants off. My friend, co-host, professional evaluator, former coach, successful business owner, man of the people, Jake Epstein. And we match again.
Yeah.
Two black shirts.
Yeah, of course. It reminds me of was it Steve Lyons, I think, back in the day for the White Sox, got to first base and just was getting the dirt out and dropped. I mean, he dropped straight trout. You know, like those pants went around his ankles and he just kind of forgot where he was.
Well, I think he did. That was done by accident. These guys were actually doing it on purpose.
Yeah, I think, I think pitchers are a little
weird.
I think they got their feelings hurt, and it's not the umpire's fault. Like don't take it out on the umpire. Don't be a jerk.
Yeah.
Like, hey, it's the umpire's job now. It's a new rule. By the way, you were cheating for I don't know how many years. Yeah. Did you see everybody's? You should have pulled those stats. Maybe we can pull them up during the show. We don't have an intern this week. Our intern is at Grandma's ranch, so we don't have an intern to pull it up. But the average decrease in spin rate over the last week or the last 4 days, what an interesting number that would be. Scherzer was down 3 or 4. 100 RPM. Garrett Cole was down, I think, 500 RPM off of his pitches. I mean, it's obvious it's blatantly obvious it was a problem. Yeah. And they're cleaning it up, and we'll see if they walk more people or hit more people or whatever. But the Dodgers still got no hit a couple days ago.
Yes,
right.
They did.
Combined no hitter.
Right.
Combined
well, also too with Scherzer. I will stick up for Scherzer in this case. He goes to his hair. I don't know if he's putting stuff in his hair, but he goes to his hair a lot in his outings. Garrett Cole more so was, I think, blatantly caught, and he, in a way, without saying it, admitted that he was doctoring up the baseball in his own personal way. Notwithstanding, those two guys last week, those are the examples you used, they had really good starts. Garrett Cole still pretty much dominated, and Max Scherzer had a really good start his last time out as well.
That's right. Yeah. And now their numbers are different, but it doesn't take away competitiveness and ability to throw a pitch.
And their talent.
What it does is it makes the ball look different than everyone else, and then that's what we've talked about in different podcasts is if you're throwing something at a breaking ball at 2,800 RPMs and the league average is 25 RPMs, yours is going to break a half inch more. And that half inch is the difference between a line drive and a ground ball. So, that's where it makes it a huge, huge difference. Max Scherzer is probably one of my all-time favorite players. Like,
Mizzou guy.
By far, if I was going to go to war, like, that's the dude I would follow through the wall. No doubt about it. Like, when he was staring down Girardi.
Yeah. Girardi made a bad decision. He made a bad decision coming out of that dugout. We all know what Max Scherzer would do to Joe Girardi.
Yeah, and Girardi's just, that's him. He's a scrappy guy. And
do you remember a couple of years ago?
Good gamesmanship. Hey, you got to get a guy off his game. It didn't work.
Do you remember a couple of years ago when Max got hit in batting practice in his eye and broke his nose and had this black eye? And there's a picture on the internet. I think everybody should Google it if you get the chance. Google Max Scherzer black eye, and you'll see him in the bullpen prior to his start in Game 2 of a doubleheader, Nationals Phillies 2019. And I mean, he looks so scary with that black eye, that grin on his face, ready to come out of the bullpen. It's like, I'm going to eat you for lunch.
Yeah. I mean, you can't teach that kind of, intensity and grit. Like he's always had it. I mean, he had it at Mizzou when he, whatever that was, 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's hard to believe he's 37 years old at this point, and he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year, which is an interesting proposition. You give a guy that age a 3-year deal, and you try to re-sign him if you're the Nationals.
I don't know.
Speaking of Joe Girardi,
he's got at least one more year, maybe two.
Speaking of Joe Girardi, by the way, he had a guy, really bringing down his status. A general manager, Mike Rizzo, who arguably is one of the best general managers in the league at this point.
Yeah,
I mean, I think you can really say that with a lot of gumption behind it. The Nationals, by the way, amazing. 2 weeks ago, I admit this. 2 weeks ago, I said they weren't very good when I said that Starlin Castro was Ep's choking right now. Ep's dying. But I said it a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if he's laughing at something I said or laughing at me or just choking on coffee. He's got to go to a wedding.
Did you hear any of the coughing?
The coffee? No.
Coughing.
Oh, the coughing. I did not.
No, I hit the mute button.
Wow, you've got like
the problem is we got video now.
Right, so people saw it.
You can see. Yeah, the coffee's strong this morning.
Is it? Yeah. Well, you got to be careful. You have a wedding to go to. You're very excited about going to that wedding, and you got to be careful. And I hope you're that excited when you come to my wedding someday. Okay.
I will be excited as long as you don't get married in Florida in July. Outside.
It's not going to happen. No way, Jose. It was 100 degrees this past week. Mike Rizzo, I want to say that I'm wrong. I was wrong 2 weeks ago about the Nationals. I said they weren't very good. They are a pretty good ball club. I'm not sure they're going to make the postseason, but again, they're going on this run like they did in 2019. It's really incredible. And Mike Rizzo continues year in, year out to build at least a championship contender. Maybe not so much a championship contender, but at least a good team that competes and gets fans excited, which, hey, that's kind of like old school baseball. That's what GMs used to do, right? Before let's tear it down and rebuild for 18 years. But with Mike Rizzo calling Joe Girardi a con artist, a lot of ways we can go with this. And I will say, and by the way, I don't know if you know this, you probably knew this, but I don't know if the audience knew this. Mike Rizzo scouted Joe Girardi when he was at Northwestern. Bet you didn't know that. And if you did, audience members, if you did know that, I don't care. But I'll say this. Mike Rizzo knows the game of baseball, and he knows how to evaluate talent and evaluate people. And whether he was saying that out of frustration, saying that out of anger, I don't know what it was. It shouldn't be out of anger because they won that game. I think that he was backing up his guy. And you know what? I like that out of a GM because it shows that he's scrappy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how old Girardi is. How old is Girardi? 55. You got a 55-year-old man that is taunting another player. Like that's like the one rule as a coach is you never go after a player.
Yeah. You
never talk back to an opposing player. You never, try to get in another player's face. Like that is the worst thing you can do as a coach. College, high school, professional, whatever, your deal is. So for him to go after the guy pitching for the other team, like to me, that's just not a cool move. Now, Girardi is also a pretty bright guy, so maybe he does that. He takes a couple steps out of the dugout. Maybe Scherzer, who's shoving that day, right, comes out and meets him halfway, and then Scherzer gets ejected. Then all of a sudden, Joe's like, yeah, I got him out of the game.
Well, and that's to Mike Rizzo's point that he's a con artist. Yeah. He wasn't really upset. He was trying to take him out of his game. And I think that's what Mike Rizzo meant. Now, with that said,
exactly what he was trying to do.
And with that said, I get it with Joe Girardi. I'm not saying that he did the right thing or wrong thing. That's just baseball. Now, I personally, for me, I didn't mind it. And I also didn't mind Mike Rizzo saying what he said. Why? Because Mike Rizzo is a scrappy baseball guy. And I like that in a general manager, scrappy baseball kind of guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard him speak, it was after they won the World Series and how they make decisions and, how they have 4 guys essentially or 5 guys that are all specialists in their own, a development specialist, a scouting specialist, and they all come together and make decisions. And that's pretty cool. That's why they're good. That's why they're consistent.
Year in and year out. It's really incredible too to think what they were in 2005, their first season as an expansion club. Really quick, I have to just touch on this though. The Diamondbacks facing your team last week, letting a guy come around and score. I don't know if you saw the video. Video don't lie, as the kids say on TikTok. Was that done on purpose, or in your opinion, or was that just confusion? I mean, even Steve Berthiaume, the play-by-play guy for the Diamondbacks, was screaming, "Throw the ball!" It's really pretty funny because he was like, "Throw the ball!"
He's a parent.
Throw the ball.
Yeah, I mean, Vogelbach, if he doesn't pull a hamstring, he scores easily.
Okay. All right.
So to me, you're not expecting a guy to pull up lame, like every other ball that's hit and the guy is going to score.
Yeah.
Now is there communication? There's fans, there's noise. Maybe the other infielder could have said something. Maybe the catcher could have said something.
Sure.
But I didn't have a problem with the Diamondback. Like, to me, you're not expecting a guy to pull a hamstring and pull up lame and give up. And that's just happened to be what happened. But then even as a player, you look up and you're not used to, you expect that guy in your game clock is, okay, that guy hit home plate already. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you turn around and people are, yelling at you and you're trying to figure out what's going on. And yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but I don't know. I don't fault them. It was a weird play.
Yeah.
I mean, now the weird part would be if you didn't notice Vogelbach, because that guy blocks the sun anytime he's standing out during the day.
Yeah. He looks like I don't know, defensive lineman.
No,
offense to him. I'm not trying to be
human.
He's a big guy. Yeah, he hits the ball to the moon, though.
He's healthy.
He's like a Matt Stairs type. Remember Matt Stairs?
He's like Matt Stairs times 2.
Oh, okay. All right.
He's like Matt Stairs if Matt Stairs ate Prince Fielder.
That's really funny.
I mean, his neck is like that big.
Yeah. Not like I always point out my neck. I'm a pencil neck geek on video. I swear, if people saw me in person, my neck's not this skinny. It's just the camera. Just like some days, like the camera makes me look like I'm dying, which, by the way, 2 weeks in a row that my camera, if you're watching on our YouTube page, the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast, you'll see that I'm pretty pale today. And I guess the camera color matches my real color. Sometimes I'm yellow and also I'm dying.
The jaundice has gone away.
Yeah. Which is good. Somebody recently who watches the show said there's a medical term for the liver shutting down that makes you yellow or makes me look like I'm yellow. Forget what it was.
Not jaundice?
Not jaundice. No. Maybe it is jaundice. I don't know. Hey, don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast too, to listen on the audio side.
One of our listeners will definitely let us know for sure.
Yeah. Please do email us jimbopodcast21@gmail.com or reach out to us on Twitter or Instagram. I have to check my Instagram a lot more. I haven't checked it in like at least 2.5 weeks. I got to do that. Do better. You
can do better, Jim.
I could. I'm always on Twitter instead. All right, let's get into our topic today because we've got a lot to talk about with preparing to get drafted. We're not talking about any players. We're not evaluating any players. We're not allowed to do that. But we're going to just talk about, in general, players preparing to get drafted because the MLB draft, obviously, it's shifted. It's changed. It would have it would have happened already. Mm-hmm. But it's coming around the corner here, and I think it's a good topic to talk about preparing to get drafted from an offensive side. So that's what we are. At the core, an offensive-based podcast. They said we wouldn't last 5 episodes, but here we are. We do break off and do other things. So anyway, Ep got drafted. I didn't. I wasn't a very good player. Ep got drafted, though, and I'm curious to hear your story because I know it's changed over the years, but to hear your story about talking with the scout who drafted you and signed you and meeting your parents and then kind of getting that call on draft day, like, hey, Jake, you've been drafted. So I'm curious to hear, I mean, because in the movie Moneyball, you saw a little bit of a clip of someone getting drafted, Billy Beane getting drafted, talking with scouts. Was that accurate? What was your story like?
So I wasn't a highly touted prospect. So I got drafted out of high school by the hometown team, by the Padres.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought you got drafted once. Okay, twice.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I was a senior sign, so for the Angels. So I was a much better player as a senior, but they didn't really draft seniors back then because guys were, there was no leverage and there was no slot money back then. So it was like, yeah, they would sign guys and then give them a little bit more money than what, the draft was worth. But, going back to high school, it was a local scout who I knew because I played for the area code team. So right. I was I had known him because he was the area scout, and everybody at the time is scouting, Eric Chavez, who was my teammate, and he was the number 10 pick overall. So, I got to be in front of scouts a lot, which was pretty cool. So, a lot of times as high school players, that's where you get seen, or even for colleges, you get recruited. They go to see the dude, and then all of a sudden, who's this other guy? That's pretty good. Nobody's even on his watch. So, but yeah, it was cool. Like, I wasn't sure because I had a college scholarship, and that always plays a big deal in it now. It's like, wow, is he going to go to college? Is he a smart guy? Is he an academic guy? Do we want to draft him and pay for his college so he can still go in the off season, which never happens. You typically have to go to, instructional league in the fall. So you're not really able to take any classes, but the call came in. It was the general manager, of the Padres, is Kevin Towers. He called and said, hey, we just drafted you, and blah, blah, blah. I don't remember all of it. And it was like really cool. And hey, we'll be in touch. Our local scout will be in touch, with contract and all that,
Yeah.
And I was like, awesome, but it wasn't a big, to do, because I wasn't like a, first 3-round guy. But it was cool. I knew I was going to college. I wasn't going to sign. My parents weren't, if it was life-changing money and I was a first rounder, then I probably would have signed. But, for at that time, it probably would have been college tuition, which I already had a scholarship. So that was kind of a wash. Plus, I don't know, it was probably $50,000, $40,000, which I probably would have blown through, in a couple of years trying to live on your own, being a minor leaguer. Like, it costs money to be a minor leaguer.
Oh yeah.
You're not making anything. So, I made that choice, but it's really cool. Like, that's what you dream of, right? As a kid, it's like you work, and then draft day. I mean, I remember sitting there watching the ticker. It was much different than it is now, but there was like, I'm pretty sure the internet was out then. It was on maybe
AOL.com. We had
What's
AIM.
that?
We had AOL.com. We had AIM. Remember AIM, the instant message? Yeah. That was pretty much the extent of the internet.
That would have been 96.
Right.
Like, the internet was pretty, like, I don't know if the draft was, I don't think that's what it was. I think I was waiting for a phone call.
Right. Wow.
I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Now, the
Amazing.
second time there was a draft tracker in 2000, but that didn't matter. I got a call, but I wasn't.
What was that like in 2000 when you were in college and you got drafted? You were a senior. You kind of knew at that time your signing bonus, you're probably not going to get drafted high. Your signing bonus is probably not going to be that big. So was it the same process as when you got drafted out of high school? And did you regret not signing out of high school with the possible signing bonus that would have been $50,000 plus the tuition?
Yeah, I never regretted it.
Okay.
So I never regretted it. It was, I don't remember. Our season ended at Fullerton as a senior. The coaches kept saying, oh yeah, you're going to get, you're going to get a chance. You're going to get picked up, blah, blah, blah. You'll sign. That won't, because I had a pretty good year. So I think I hit 320 or 330 and, 9 or 10 home runs, like pretty decent year. And I didn't play all the time because I had a broken ankle that I was rehabbing, the first part of the year. But, it was like, I remember losing to Mark Pryor and getting bounced from a regional, and I was on deck. So I was on deck when they got the last out against us, and we lost by one round or 2 rounds. It was a close game. USC. Pryor didn't beat us. It was another guy who ended up being a big leaguer. Gosh, I can't remember his name. He pitched for the Reyes. His name is Reyes. He pitched for the Cardinals. Flat bill guy. He was the number 2 behind Pryor. They were pretty good that year, but it was awful. Like, I remember everything. I remember, like, the exit, we had a conversation on the right field line as a team, and then I went and sat outside the locker room, like, just by myself. I didn't want to talk to anybody. Didn't want to do anything. So, and then the draft was probably a week later, and then I got called, from 2 teams, hey, we want to sign you, blah, blah, blah. So I chose the Angels. They gave me, a couple $1,000 more.
Yeah.
Wasn't a big thing, and they were a local team, and they did a lot of, like, stuff.
So you didn't get drafted the second time.
No, didn't get drafted. So I was a senior sign. So the cool part about that though was I was so close to Anaheim. I drove to the stadium.
Yeah.
And I sat down with the general manager and signed the contract right, at the stadium with the general manager, which is pretty cool. A lot of times it's not like that. It's a local scout guy or something like that. So that was fun. Like that was pretty cool. And then I got on a little crop duster plane and flew to Montana a couple days later.
Yeah, and you've told that story before about your time in the minor leagues and trying to navigate through that as well. Now, what's interesting to me, this whole story, you got drafted once, then you didn't get drafted, but you still signed. And the draft back then was what, 40? Well, it was more than 40. It was 50.
Yeah, there was a lot of
rounds, right?
Yeah, there's probably at least 40.
Now it's a lot different. You would think weighing college and getting drafted out of high school, you would think now parents would say to their kids, no, you go to college, play 3 years or 4, whatever, and then get drafted. It's really not worth it to get drafted out of high school in the last round, again, because the draft is a lot smaller. Right. And even with that enticing signing bonus, it's probably not worth it. It's not life-changing money. Let's go to college first. And that's where weighing college comes in.
Yeah, and it really depends. Like, I mean, it depends on where you're going to college.
Yeah.
Like you go to a junior college, or you going to LSU or Vanderbilt, where you're gonna get drafted and your stock's going to increase, in time. So for me, the college leverage wasn't a thing back in the late 90s. Like you didn't go to college to increase your draft status. Like if you were going to get money, you were going to sign out of high school. And it's totally changed in the last 25 years. It's guys, I could tell you most people on, draft lists, if you would look, at the history of the last like top two rounds, predominantly it would have been high school players, like no doubt about it. And now it kind of leans the other direction. So it's kind of a cool dynamic. One of the reasons I left Missouri was because there were no scouts at that time. Like no scouts came to the University of Missouri to watch games. So I was highly touted, blah, blah, blah. I played 3 years. The only time I saw a scout is when we went and played Texas.
Or like scout day, right?
Huh?
Or like scout day.
Yeah, scout day, but they need to see you in action, right? Like my tools didn't matter. I could throw hard to second base. I could hit the ball far in batting practice. I could run slow. Like that wasn't helping anybody at scout day. So it was, game action. That's where you got to perform and that's where cross checkers see and all that kind of stuff. So that was one of the reasons I chose Fullerton when I went to transfer, was because I know, and my first inter squad game at Fullerton in September, of course I was on crutches at the time because I broke a leg in summer ball, but the first inter squad game, there were like 15 scouts in fall ball. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And so I was like, okay, I made the right choice. And, eventually somebody liked me enough to pay me a couple bucks and a plane ticket to go play pro baseball. But, looking now, I like to, if we take Jack Leiter and Rocker, right? Sure. Rocker at Vanderbilt, we take them for what it's worth this year, right? They're probably both going to be top 5 overall picks. Okay. They went to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt dominated because of them. Vanderbilt would not be in the World Series without them this year. In 3 years, if they would have gone to the minor leagues, would they be in the big leagues now 3 years later? I would say so. Would they have developed? Maybe Vanderbilt has a better development system in terms of putting on weight, getting stronger. Scott Brown's a great pitching coach. Maybe they have better tools than the minor leaguers. I don't know. As a pitcher, in my humble opinion, I would not have gone to college because they were going to be first rounders anyway. I would not have gone to college because in 3 years of college, that elbow can pop at any time.
May I just jump in here? I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to talk about that, ask and value this question later, but we can bring it up now. I've always had the philosophy of, and this is just me playing, Jimmy Scout, right? Jimmy General Manager. I like role playing that sometimes.
That's better than your other role play.
Hey, you know what? Keep your pants on there, pal. My philosophy is this: pitchers who go to college, you see the pitchers in the College World Series now, those coaches, and hey, I'm not knocking it. God bless them. They want to win. Those coaches, those pitchers on 2 days rest, 3 days rest. They don't care about the rest periods, nor should they. They're trying to win the College World Series. Okay, so if I'm a pitcher, highly touted, I'm not, and I'm a scout or I'm a general manager. I'm more so drafting pitchers out of high school so they can be in my care. I can develop them the way I want them to be developed, or our development system the way they should be developed. And I'm drafting a college hitter over a high school hitter. That's kind of like my draft philosophy. Is that something that kids getting drafted, who have the chance to get drafted out of high school, pitchers, hitters, is that something they should think about as well from a maturity standpoint?
Absolutely. But again, sending your 18-year-old kid to Coach Corbin, at Vanderbilt, like that guy runs a tight ship.
Yeah.
Like that kid's going to grow, and that kid's going to be, learn how to manage his time and, between school and personal time and baseball. Versus you send an 18-year-old on their own to, the minor leagues, and they're surrounded by people that are older, right? Maybe guys that are over 21 that are, having beers after, the game or workouts and stuff like that. And you have an 18-year-old that's, can that player handle it? What is the best situation for that player? It really is a tough call. They're going to find you. If you're a good player and you go to college and dominate, they will find you if you have tools. If you're a good player and you're in high school, they're typically going to find you. Some players from small areas aren't found, if they don't stand out, and all of a sudden they need 3 years of college to, wow, where the heck did this guy come from? I'm trying to think recently was it Torkelson? It was Torkelson wasn't drafted out of high school. Ended up being a 1-1, right?
Right. And we talked about that when we did his mechanical breakdown series like a year and a half ago. Speaking about how he never got drafted out of high school, and he went 1-1. He was in a way, in essence, in terms of athletics in baseball, a late bloomer.
Yeah. Yeah. I looked at a late bloomer on my draft list, and a big guy, but not a lot of puberty yet.
Yeah.
And is hitting the ball really well and is throwing the ball fairly hard. And it's like, gosh, 25 more pounds easily this kid's going to put on. What's that ball going to do? And that's a big part of it as a scout. Like, absolutely, you look at guys and you're like, this kid's not done growing.
Right.
He's going to get bigger and stronger. So if he's dominating now, look out. And then vice versa, you have somebody that, might be capped out at age 18, 17 or 18. And you have no, and everyone's old now. So don't get me wrong. Like, everybody is, high school seniors are like 19, it seems like. College, because of COVID, college players are like, you have like 24-year-old college players that are still playing, right? And it's like, they're probably not going to get a chance to be drafted. That's too old to take.
Hey, don't tell that to Brandon Whedon, though, who got drafted by the Browns at age 28. Played quarterback.
Right. Why not?
By the way, I watched a documentary on the Browns, Dark Side of the NFL, or Dark Side of Football, like a week and a half ago. It was on the Browns, and I feel so bad for that fan base. I mean, they are so passionate, and just the Browns every year, outside of last year, just stink.
I think the Browns are on the move, baby.
Hey, I'm saying it on this show for the record. I've always been a Baker guy. Baker, playmaker, in my opinion. But people have always poo-pooed him and said, hey, he's my guy. Baker Mayfield can play, whether you like it or not.
He can play. He's a gritty guy, too.
And I was going to say, I thought what? Oh, yeah, he is sarcastic. I was going to, I almost said he got drafted, but he didn't in baseball. That was Johnny Manziel.
No.
Wasted draft pick that was. Yeah, I like all your points there about the maturity level. By the way, I want to say one thing too. There is a guy, in my opinion, who I've watched who was a late bloomer at Boston College. We've talked about him before, Sal Frelick. And I know you can't really comment on him, but he is, or Sam or Sal Frelick. Frelick is his last name.
I think it's Sal.
Sal Frelick. He's a late bloomer, didn't get drafted out of high school, and he's a really good college player. And I think he has a shot to make it to the big leagues. But there's so many factors that go into getting drafted out of high school that are out of your control as a player. And that's where that that's where the support system at home and the parents have to help you also make that decision as well. And in a way, you almost wish that players weren't eligible to get drafted out of high school, because that is a big decision for a young adult that a lot of kids, they don't know what decision to make unless they have life-changing money, but they don't understand the things that go into that decision. See, that's where I think the NBA maybe did the correct thing in setting the eligibility back.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we could talk, there's a whole other topic, but, Major League Baseball can help fund colleges too, in order to make that happen. Yeah. Use college as a development tool, and maybe we increase the scholarships to 30 with help of, Major League funding. And now all of a sudden these players can use 3 years to get better. What does that do to your minor league program though? Or, all of a sudden now you got probably 50 less players in your minor league system, 40 less players in your minor league system. Yeah. Then all of a sudden we don't fill the stadium, or we don't have a high A team. We only have a low A team. So, I mean, there's a lot that goes into that, but that's a story for another time. I do think college development is huge, because for most minor leaguers, they're not playing. They play the season. Not all of them are going to, instructional league. Yeah. Or the fall league. Yeah. So what are they doing? They're just hanging out, like working valet, or they're waiters, or whatever it is to make a buck. And
Uber drivers, DoorDash.
Yeah, that's right. You could do all that stuff.
Who knows? Maybe they're Amazon drivers too.
Good benefits there. That would be. I don't think they'd ever go back to the minor league. They'd be like, I got benefits. Yeah. I'm getting paid more than
although I
38 cents an hour.
Although I do hear that job is like crazy hard. So
yeah.
I don't know if
I don't think you have the mental capacity for it, Jim.
I don't.
To each their own.
No. Yeah. What final points here on this topic? Yeah. The excitement of getting drafted and going through that whole process. Not only are you, especially coming out of high school, not only are you getting recruited to go to college, you're getting recruited to play professional baseball. What's your mindset like? What's your training like? How do you prepare for this opportunity? Because it is, in a way, life-changing. I know minor leaguers don't make much money, but they're getting a chance to play professional baseball. And a lot of people would die for that. They would give their left nut to do it, as they say.
Yeah, right. That's right.
It's a chance that it's a once in a lifetime type thing that you can tell your grandkids one day.
Then you just do it. Like you work for that opportunity, right? You take extra swings, you lift weights, a little bit longer than most guys, or whatever you have to do. Because really, when I'll never forget signing that contract. Two things: when I signed my letter of intent, and then when I signed my professional contract, and then of course when I signed my marriage license. Just in case other people are listening.
Right.
Yeah. But those are the three, that's what I remember.
Your voice does travel. It travels well.
It travels. Yes. It's booming. So you're a pro, right? That's what what do you, when you're 8 years old, 7 years old, and I was, Jose Canseco playing wiffle ball. Yeah. Cause I wanted to be a pro, right? I wanted to be a pro, and whether or not you get paid very much, you're still a pro. Yeah. And you put on that professional uniform for the first time. It's pretty cool. It really is. And you go to spring training with all these other pros, and you guys are all part of the same organization, wearing the same hat, same jersey. And it's a really cool thing. I wouldn't change it for the world. Now, if I would have drug around for 8 or 9 years and been a mediocre minor leaguer, and then all of a sudden had to go back to school and finish my last semester and start a family a little bit later, that would have been a bad decision on my part, Yeah. I kind of saw the writing, I'm not as good as these guys. And maybe if I had a different kind of personality, screw that, I'm better than that. And, I just went crazy and whatever. And maybe I could have played longer, but I kind of knew it. Okay. I had a lot of friends that were better athletes than me that did that. They played in the minor leagues till they were 28, 29, 30, and then they had to start life over. Yeah. And I didn't want to do that. Right. And it's tough decision. It's a really tough decision to make, but in hindsight, it was the right decision.
Yeah. What about just in general, the just mentally getting yourself prepared in today's world.
Yeah. So one of my players that I've worked with since he was, and I can't say his name because he is a prospect, but I've known since he was probably 12, worked with his brother. He's a college player. And anyway, so this said player has a very good scholarship to a Division I school on the West Coast. Okay. So he's kind of a two-way guy. He throws really hard, but he's very athletic and smooth with a bat. So he's being looked at by some organizations as a hitter, some organizations as a pitcher, and some is, hey, we'll give you a shot to do both, which I don't think that really is the case once you get to minor league ball. So he knows if he goes to college, he could be a two-way guy, but he could also get life-changing money, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's a really hard decision to make. Like, he's in a really weird window of, do I go? I'm going to a pretty good school. If I continue to develop and get bigger and stronger, maybe I add a couple miles an hour to my fastball. Maybe all of a sudden I hit the ball, 450 feet instead of 410 feet, or, whatever he does. And it's a really tough decision. And I wouldn't know what to make, quite honestly. Like, you have to be like, hey, do you want the college environment? Do you want to go to football games on Saturdays? Do you want to, go to some frat parties? Not that I condone any of that, and athletes really don't have time
come
for much
on.
of that.
Come on.
Not anymore, man. Social media, athletes can't do anything anymore.
Yeah, but I mean, they could go to it's college.
They can go to parties, but it's like, anywho, is that what you want to do? Or do you want to get a jump start on life and have you start investing, $500,000 when you're age 18, that's going to be a pretty nice sum if you don't blow it, if you invest it wisely. So it's a really tough decision. And I wouldn't know how to answer that, quite honestly. Like, I'm glad I'm not in that situation. Whether it was me or if I had a kid that was in that situation, I don't know what I would do.
Yeah, but you know what? It's a good decision. It's a good choice to have, I guess, right?
It's a good choice to have, and he can't make a wrong decision. He's either going to make a lot of money, or he's going to go to college and get a degree. And worst case scenario, he gets hurt, right, and doesn't play for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden he gets drafted a few years later for not very much money. But at least you have a college degree.
Let's get to our listener question here. This comes to us from Steve from North Carolina. By the way, speaking of Steve from Stance Doctor, our friend Steve in Tampa owns Stance Doctor. Giving him a little plug there. Great facility. He texted me over the week and said, don't sleep on NC State. So we were wrong about Tennessee in our prediction last week. And NC State is a very athletic team. But in essence, he was kind of wrong too.
That starting pitcher that threw against Rocker?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I think it was awesome.
Yeah, that NC State team, very, very athletic.
That was a bummer.
This comes to us from Steve in North Carolina, though. This question sent to us via jimbopodcast21@gmail.com. Steve writes, hi, guys. First time emailing in, and I had a question about the arm bar. I see we got a lot of questions about the arm bar.
A lot of questions on the arm bar.
Yeah. I see a lot of young kids with this problem that leads to a longer swing and bat drag. What can a parent do to fix this problem? It looks like a small fixable problem that leads to bigger problems within the swing. Thanks again. Keep up the great work. And that's from Steve from North Carolina, sent to us via jimbopodcast21@gmail.com. I think that's the first time that Steve has written into the show. Great question, Steve. Thank you for listening and writing in.
Steve, you should attend the certification, the instructor training we're going to have October 16th and 17th.
There you go.
College Station, Texas. I got a few guys that are already signed up for that. But kidding aside, yes, bat drag is, arm bar is a very serious issue, a very common issue. Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad issue. So if you have arm bar, but you don't have bat drag, so you straighten your front arm, but your back arm is okay, then you're fine.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you can look at Manny Machado, even Tatis. If you look at guys that stand far away from the plate, pool holes sometimes, that front arm is going to straighten out. If that front arm straightens out and your back elbow drops underneath, then then your career's over. Like, I'm not joking about that either. Like, that is a catastrophic issue.
Yeah.
If your lead arm straightens out and your top hand opens and you cast in bad drag, that is a catastrophic issue, both fixable. But if you just arm bar, you can still control the barrel and create whip. Is your swing going to be a little bit longer? I mean, maybe 1/100th of a second longer, but you can still be pretty efficient with an arm bar if you correct it. So some people will arm bar, and then as they turn the corner, boom, they pull that thing out in front, and then there's no problem. So all my drills are designed to fix arm bar, casting, and bat drag. So every bottom hand drill, top hand drill that I use, two hand, no legs drills, contact drills, extension drills, any isolation drill are designed for those three issues: arm bar, bat drag, and casting, because those are the three major issues that affect young players. Meaning my job as a human on this earth is to try to allow any kid that wants to play baseball to try to play through age 14, 15, 16. Like, no matter what, if you work hard, I'm going to give you a swing plane that will run into baseballs or softballs. And if you run into baseballs, you'll play. And I've had countless players that were the most unathletic human beings that played high school baseball because they worked hard at their swing. They couldn't throw the ball all the way to first base from third base. They couldn't run fast enough to play the outfield. But you know what? They could hit a ball. They couldn't hit it over anybody's head, but they could get hits, you know, even though they didn't have elite athleticism. So if you can minimize those three things, bat drag, arm bar, and casting, you can be successful in the batter's box.
And they where do they learn a good swing plane? Where would they learn that from?
That'll be next week's episode about philosophy. I was actually excited when I thought we were doing that. I did I'll probably mention this again. I did a Zoom call with the A&M softball team. Yeah. I don't know, a few days ago. And it was great because, you know, the girls asked me questions, you know, what this, and we talked a lot about, you know, not just mechanics, but, you know, team environment, things like that. But one of the questions was, Ep, what's your philosophy? And I was like, what a great question. I'll save it till next week. But you can learn that at the Epstein coaches training, which is designed for really amateur coaches, usually travel ball. I've talked to two guys that are travel ball. They're part of a travel organization. They're going to come learn it, bring it back to their organization. So,
and when is it?
And then parents.
When
is
that?
October 16th and 17th, October 16th, 17th. Nice and cool. College Station, Texas. We have all the toys down there at the lab. But that's it. And then online too. You can go to epsteinhitting.com, my online academy, where you send me videos and then I give you drills to fix those problems, or at least to minimize them. But you know, without the plug, all kidding aside, that, you know, that's a real issue. But if the arm bar is isolated to just arm bar and not casting and bat drag, that player's going to be okay. Don't be overly concerned with it. Very difficult to fix. Very difficult to take an arm that's straight and bend it 30 degrees. Right. I will tell you that. So just deal with it straight and do the other things really well.
We right there in that one segment of our listener question, it may have been the greatest 3 segues that we've ever done on this show. We may ever do again. Not only did we answer the question, we talked about the lab and we talked about what we're doing next week. So with that said, we'll talk to you all next week. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Take care, everybody.